What's up guys, Aaron Bennett here. In this video, coming to you from a laundry room, I am diving into the leaked audio that was released from Tiffany Fong. Y'all know her. She's the cutest Asian reporting on Celsius news that could ever exist. And there's an audio that was released a few hours ago about an internal meeting. I think it was a Zoom meeting, and she got her hands on it by, I believe, some anonymous person sending it to her. But that's not the point of this video. What I'm going to do, just like the olden days of me covering the AMAs every single week, I'm going to give you a review of this 55-minute audio. So as you can see on the screen, September 8th was when they had this Zoom meeting. So let me go ahead and dive in. So Alex starts out by giving a macroeconomic overview of what's going on, saying that the dollar has never been stronger. He's also talking just about the massive inflation that many countries are experiencing right now. And Alex says that he thinks that Bitcoin and crypto will continue to go down as there's more quantitative tightening, which the Fed says there will be, and as the dollar keeps getting stronger, which is what's happening. So he has not started talking about Celsius yet, but we will get there, so just hang tight. So Alex says that Celsius is in a safer place because they filed Chapter 11, whereas other companies may not have that luxury to file Chapter 11, and Celsius actually is in a good place. That's what he's saying. He says we're going to see a lot of other companies have similar problems to Celsius, and again, Celsius is lucky because they got Chapter 11, where if they were a little bit later down the road, like these other companies, they may not be so lucky. They may just have to liquidate immediately. So Alex then mentions Poolin, which is one of the largest Bitcoin miners. I think he said it's the fourth largest, and they have liquidity issues and have had to pause withdrawals. So he's basically comparing what happened with Celsius, the fact that they had no liquidity or not enough liquidity to give everybody their crypto back, to the fourth largest Bitcoin miner, which is a larger Bitcoin miner than even Celsius. And Alex says that the fact they were in reorganization is a time for them to obviously reorganize and get themselves stronger. So when the clouds part, essentially what he's referring to, I believe, is when the macroeconomic conditions improve, when the dollar starts weakening, when quantitative tightening stops, when crypto assets get bigger and go up in value again, they, Celsius, will be in a great position to reopen, probably with a new company, which I'll talk about later in this audio. So Alex says that they want to give the coins in custody back to the people as quickly as possible. He says they're talking with the UCC and the judge to do this as quickly as possible. He says it's in Celsius's best interest to return custody coins to the customers. He says it's not like we don't want to give the coins back. So we'll get more into that later. I just got to pause because I will be making my comments throughout this video. Custody started like, 4 months ago, 5 months ago? It's something new. And this whole idea that Celsius really believes that custody coins doesn't belong to the bankruptcy estate, and they really want to give that money back to the customers. But by the way, they have no desire or no intention, or Alex doesn't mention, I should say, that they are trying as aggressively to give back the collateral, to give back the earn, to give back everything else back to the customers, back to us. It's just a little strange because, again, custody is brand new, essentially. They just started it, and I think there were strategic reasons for why they started it, and there are some kind of conspiracies about they started it 90 or 89 days before the petition date, and the ramifications of that, and the fact that custody has nothing to do with international people. I don't really like it, is what I'm trying to say. So Alex right now does say that the second part after returning the coins to custody holders is to return the rest of the coins, but then he's talking about the complications of that. How much will they return, basically, in what denominations, and all that kind of stuff. So now they're talking about a new company or reopening under the name Kelvin, Kelvin. Yes, that's a dad joke. You can't get away from them. And they want to reopen something where we don't have to trust Celsius at all. He wants it to be completely trustless. And I want to take a brief second and pause the video to talk about the sponsor of this video, iTrust Capital. So right here is my iTrust Capital Roth IRA. You can see I have $3,500 or so in here. So in this example, if you have $6,000 and you invest $6,000 a year, and let's say Bitcoin, Ethereum, whatever you invest in goes up 40%, I think crypto is going to go up much, much more than 40%. And you have 35 years until you retire. That means you would have $2.7 billion in your Roth IRA. And iTrust Capital just announced right here that they are allowing you to stake Polkadot. And soon this will be more cryptos. Now what this means is you are getting the appreciation of whatever crypto you are invested in and the staking rewards on top of that. And when you retire in a Roth IRA, you don't pay the IRS one freaking cent. That's the power of it. iTrust never takes custody of the assets like what happened with Celsius, and they secure it in cold storage like with Coinbase custody. So guys, there's a link below where if you use it and set up an account with $1,000 or more, you are going to get $100 in Bitcoin as a bonus. Now let's go ahead and get back to the video. So Alex is saying to get your information from Stretto and from the official court documents, not from Twitter. He is then harping on Simon Dixon, or criticizing him, basically saying how horrible Celsius is on Twitter, but also he wants to buy Salt Lending, which is a competitor of Celsius. Alex is saying Simon wants people to switch over to Salt Lending and basically go over to his company if he buys Salt Lending, and also talking about Corey Klippstein of Swan Bitcoin, who basically started supposedly this bank run, right, that led to where we are right now, which I have some issues about blaming basically the bank run on everything that's going on right now. But essentially saying, yeah, Twitter, you're going to get people that have competing interests with Celsius saying bad things about Celsius because they want to tear it down, rip it down, or lower its valuation so much in the public eye that a competitor could come in and buy it for the cheap. So Alex is saying that just because people on Twitter are saying that their assets and liabilities are changing a ton because they have reported and they have submitted different documents, updated documents of their cash flow. He's saying again, don't believe the people on Twitter saying that we are just finding money out of thin air or that things are changing rapidly. He's like, just trust us and our lawyers for what we put out on Stretto. And he's talking about this change in the amount of money Celsius has, which recently happened. Essentially, there was a change between cash on hand and stablecoin. So he's like, we didn't make a mistake, but those two things changed. So one went up and one went down. Essentially, he's saying any FUD about us is not true. That's kind of the summing up of what he's saying right now. So Alex said they wanted to file conservative plans on their cash flow so they could surprise people when things are better than they actually are. And he also says they have enough cash to continue well into next year. And that's what he said was their intent from the beginning, to surprise people to the positive. I mean, I guess that's okay. You can post the most conservative and then surprise people when it's better. I guess it's better than the alternative. So in that case, I guess I agree with him. Alex said that they reduced their cash expenditures by 2/3, and he wants to do that to prove to the UCC and the equity shareholders that they can be a profitable business right when they reopen. Alex says they are at around 270 employees, which still feels like quite a lot, but I guess if they are really intent on reopening their services and essentially starting over as a startup, which I'll get to later in the video when Oren starts talking about that, I guess they need that many employees. Now Alex says something interesting. He says the UCC has wanted Celsius to continue their services. So I don't know if that's true. I don't know what's going on, but that is what Alex said. Let me replay that just so I can repeat it word for word. Most of the community, including the UCC, has asked us to reopen and continue our services. So now speaking is Oren Blonstein, who is, or was, I don't know if he still is, the Chief Compliance Officer. And he's been on many AMAs with Alex. So I've seen him talk a lot. He's always seemed like a cool dude, like a legit, down-to-earth guy. I think he lives in San Francisco or the Bay Area. I think he used to. And so now we're going to hear what he has to say. So now Oren is talking about Joseph Campbell's The Hero's Journey, which I believe is a book, and it kind of chronicles, the Lord of the Rings saga. Also, I believe like Star Wars, basically. You have somebody who goes on a journey, and then there's a lot of struggles, and then he comes out the other side, and he is successful, finds himself, and there's basically this like narrative arc. That's what Oren is talking right now and comparing that to Celsius. So Oren says that Celsius is at the point in the hero's journey where they are in this dark moment, maybe the dark night of the soul. So Oren's talking about adversity, which they are experiencing now, uncertainty. Yes, lots of uncertainty. And also how Oren is going to talk about moving forward with Celsius. So right now, Oren is painting a picture like a good CEO or manager would, basically positioning Celsius as this underdog where everybody's looking at them, where there's a lot of adversity, and they need to essentially come out of this and emerge like the phoenix. Those are my words. Stronger, better than ever, and how there is all this pressure on them. Basically, what they do is going to affect the entire crypto industry. So part of this call, and this is just my opinion, is Oren and Alex are trying to rally the entire company together, unify the company, as they should as executives and as leaders. And honestly, I would do the same thing if I were in their shoes. If they're going to reemerge as a new company, they're going to compare Celsius to the hero's journey. They're going to say, hey, we have this long battle ahead of us, but look how important we are, and we are fighting a fight that will affect so many people, and we're still going to take down the banks, and et cetera, et cetera. So that's kind of what's happening now. Oren says if we sell now, it's a failure. If you sell at the bottom, it's going to be a failure, but Celsius can still come out successful and emerge successful. So Oren's talking about rebuilding trust, and how are they going to do that? Well, he says custody. They're going to offer custody, which is ironic because they just started custody like 4 months ago, right? And those are the coins they want to return back to the people that had coins in custody, but only $7,575. And it could have never been an earn. You get all those like, oh, it has to be pristine custody or whatever. But he says that custody is one way that they want to regain people's trust. Now, personally, though, I really don't think they're going to be able to do this. And I'll talk more about maybe what I think later in the video, or, kind of intertwined as well. So in my opinion, they're wanting to quickly return custody assets because Oren is saying that custody is going to be a key factor when they reopen. So they want to just lay the groundwork and say, custody means your crypto. We never owned it. It was always yours. And it's just interesting, kind of how they're doing things strategically, how they are giving crypto back and why they are doing it in the way that they're doing it. Now, Oren says they want to do a crypto-based solution to honor the creditor's claims. A crypto-based solution. So he's not just saying, we're going to give everybody back their crypto. He's saying a crypto-based solution. So he says that Alex did propose something, and it did get positive feedback. We don't know where he proposed that or what happened, but he's talking about innovative solutions to get out of this problem, right? So there is a hole, right? There is a hole in the balance sheet. They owe us more than they have. Nobody's going to argue that. So rather than just giving us back what they have, they are talking about innovative solutions, which does not mean, in my opinion, does not mean that we are going to just give you back the crypto that we have and then work on, basically making you whole somewhere else. I don't think that's what they want to do, and we'll see what happens, though. And the entire transcript is on Tiffany's website. If you want to check it out, I'll include the link below. But I just want to read this paragraph, what Oren just said. The next part is a crypto-based solution to honoring creditor claims. He says, what we do in this pivotal moment can be through unprecedented, really innovative solutions, and this is one of them, is to use crypto infrastructure as the framework for returning or for delivering or allowing our customers to get their claims on the assets that were in the Earn program. So, what does that mean? Well, it's a lot of words, and what I'm not hearing is we're going to give people back the crypto that we have. I'm not hearing that. If that was the plan, just to give the crypto they have back to us, and then through maybe like a mining company or through another enterprise, we get equity, right? We get equity, kind of like what Otis and Jade from Twitter, they created that video talking about the restructuring plan. If they wanted to do something like that, they would have said that. And that's where it's like, what? Like, what are they talking about? So they're talking about custody. They want to enable people to stake, swap, and take loans again. So they are really bullish on the fact that there will be enough people that want to still keep their crypto with Celsius after what happened. So right now they are trying to create a narrative, also trying to convince their employees that they're going to succeed. But also, since this was a leaked audio, they were going to create a narrative that says, you know what, custody 100% yours. We are going to give that all back. So therefore, trust us with your custody in the future, and you can create yield on that maybe. You can take loans against it. You can stake it, right? But oh man, they have a lot of work to do to regain enough trust to really reopen up. And again, he talks about this unique crypto solution to get people's money that was in the Earn program back to us. Unique crypto solution, framework, infrastructure. Bro, if you're going to return our crypto, just say you're going to return it. It clearly seems like he's not, or Celsius is not just going to give people their crypto back. They want to keep it. They want to hold on to it. And this is just my opinion. This is not fact. This is just my opinion. They want to use our crypto potentially and keep it in their new company. So this idea of Kelvin, which is absolute zero, Oren says it relates to having absolutely zero trust in a third party, which is actually what they want people to think about this new reorganized company, which is just so ironic. This is all very challenging. You know, from their perspective, trying to convince their employees and also eventually convince us that we should trust them is challenging because, I mean, I don't have to tell you, you guys know the amount of withholding information. I'm not going to say lies, but not telling the complete truth, the complete picture. And now they want us to basically give our crypto back to them. Anyway, they have a huge task ahead of them if they're actually going to pull this off. And Oren's saying they want full transparency with this new company. They want the transparency, ironically, that Alex said that they had. Full transparency, open the kimono. All these words that clearly the kimono was completely freaking closed and there was no transparency or very, very little. And it's frustrating to hear this because Oren's saying in this new company, we're going to do everything that we said we were doing in the original Celsius, which clearly they didn't do any of that crap. And now I'm getting upset, but I think you freaking understand why. So an employee just asked, if we do custodial services, how is Celsius going to make money? So what Oren's saying is that they are going to move towards how traditional companies make yield. So either a percentage on how much crypto is being held in custody, maybe they'll take, 1% or 0.5% to hold your crypto, or on fees when you are doing transactions. So ironically, they are completely changing their model, doing a 180 from we don't charge any fees. Our swaps are the best in the industry. You can withdraw crypto, zero fees. What Oren is saying is that no, they're going to do a traditional model and they're going to start charging fees just like everybody else. Oren just said basically that they will be charging a commission when somebody does staking or swapping or, transactions in the platform. He even says they will probably have a spread. This is exactly what Alex always talked about. They never did. No spreads, no fees. Look at the other companies. We do it cheaper and better than everybody else. They charge all these fees to withdraw your crypto. They're basically stealing money from you, et cetera, et cetera. So listening to this from Oren is triggering for me. And it makes me it makes me emotional hearing this. And a lot of you guys who've been following this journey would understand. And I really encourage you to listen to the original or at least read the transcript if you'd like, because it's pretty interesting what's happening here. And an employee just asked, well, if you change your entire model to taking fees and charging fees, and that's a 180 from what we originally built Celsius on, how will we regain people's trust by basically rug pulling them in another way of saying, oh, by the way, now we charge fees? How is that going to work? So Alex jumps in and says that in 2022, they were already beginning new services or maybe transitioning existing services to start charging fees. And he says that there is no proof that when you start charging fees, people are going to bounce off your system or leave your company. So now Alex is saying that a lot of people probably did not trust Celsius because they were not charging fees and they did not understand how they earned money from loans and lending and rehypothecation. Alex says this is an opportunity to reset everything, basically, to show people exactly where the funds are, to show people how they're collecting fees. And it gives me a freaking headache because, again, they are trying to revamp their company by essentially doing everything that they said they were doing prior, but they weren't. They're going to revamp their new company, Kelvin, or whatever you want to call it, Celsius 2.0, with complete transparency, with showing everybody exactly what's going to happen, with having zero trust. Essentially everything that Celsius was talking about for the last 2 years. So it's just challenging to listen to, because as much as I want to trust people, it's going to be rough. It's going to be a hard journey for them to regain people's trust. So Oren is saying that he expects a large percentage of their customer base to leave, basically. And he says if only 5, 10, or 20% of the customers actually stay with Celsius, that's still going to be hundreds of millions of dollars to essentially have a new company for a startup. And he says that is unheard of, to have that much money and also that many customers as a startup company. So that's how he is positioning this. He's like, we expect 80, 90% of people to not come back. But even with 10%, wow, that's going to be a lot of people and a lot of money and a lot of momentum to start something new and fresh. And Oren says that startups would kill to have the assets in a worst case scenario that Celsius will have. So he's basically saying, hey, we're a startup again. We're not this company with $30 billion in AUM. We are a tiny company and we are restarting, and a percentage of people will stay with us. Most will probably leave, and we're okay with that. So now Alex says that Inc. 5000 posted their fastest growing company, and it was BlockFi. He said they grew something like 240,000% over the last 5 years. But here, Alex said, Celsius grew faster than BlockFi, but just didn't apply for Inc., which I don't know if that's even true. This reminds me of the whole, oh, we're not on Binance because we don't want to pay the $1 million fee. That's what I'm feeling when he says we didn't apply to Inc., therefore we didn't get on the list. And Alex says that BlockFi screwed up. They had a loan to Three Arrows Capital, but they got bailed out by FTX. Had they not gotten bailed out by FTX, they would have gone through Chapter 11 as well, making it seem like Celsius and BlockFi were doing exactly the same thing, taking the same risks, doing the exact similar business or very similar, but with one minor difference. FTX bailed BlockFi, but not Celsius. Alex says that Celsius was providing a needed service, and that's why they grew so fast. Well, were they actually sustainable in what they were doing, and at what point did they not become sustainable? Because yes, earning yield on crypto, making passive income is a needed service, right? Everybody wants passive income. So of course they were providing a needed service, but so were other companies that were then proven to be doing so in illegal ways. I'm not saying Celsius was, but to say they were providing a needed service is a little bit misleading. Now he's saying that Pepsi and Delta Airlines both filed for bankruptcy, but do you not drink Pepsi and not fly on Delta because they filed for bankruptcy? Of course you don't. So therefore, why would people stop trusting Celsius? Well, big difference here. One, you were basically mismanaging funds and you were taking our money and putting it into a slush pool and using it like a hedge fund and buying Bitcoin mining equipment and doing all sorts of stuff. It's different than Pepsi, where you're drinking something. It's different than Delta Airlines, where the safety of you using Delta isn't that you're going to crash. It's not like Delta was killing people and their service was horrible, essentially crashing planes. Celsius was crashing planes. They mismanaged funds. They lost our crypto. So there's no comparison between Celsius, Delta, and Pepsi. The fact that they all went through Chapter 11, they are entirely different, and I think it just takes a little bit of common sense to realize that. Alex says that bankruptcy is a test of whether we should basically collapse or reappear. So here Alex is saying that the camaraderie on Twitter is so good, and Zach, the ex-employee, he did a Twitter Spaces yesterday as of this audio, and there was so much camaraderie. People wanted the company to open, obviously to get their coins back, but also because they wanted access to these services again. So Alex is saying two things. One, don't trust Twitter because you have people like Simon Dixon and other people saying all this FUD about us, but also trust Twitter because that's a good source of information to see if the community is really in favor of us continuing. So only trust Twitter when it is supportive of Celsius. Only trust Twitter when an ex-employee, Zach, is doing a Twitter Spaces and where they are heavily moderating who is speaking. So now Alex is talking about that Apple almost filed Chapter 11, that Steve Jobs took a loan from Microsoft, right? He's drawing these parallels between very different companies. And I know I'm being critical in this video. That's what I need to do. I need to be honest and critical if that's how I feel. There's a huge difference between you trusting your money, your life savings, with a company that grossly mismanaged your funds, that treated it like a hedge fund, that did all sorts of DeFi, degen, risky stuff with it, versus Apple, versus Pepsi, versus Delta Airlines, right? These are very, very different things. Again, imagine if Pepsi, prior to declaring Chapter 11, was poisoning people, was killing people with their soda. And then they did Chapter 11, and then they had the FDA really say, hey, okay, now it's safe for you to, give your product to people because you were doing things that were killing people before. But now, since you did Chapter 11, the FDA got involved, and now your product is safe. How many people would go back to Pepsi? Zero. Zero people would go back to Pepsi if before Chapter 11, they were hurting people. That's the same thing that happened with Celsius, guys, at least how I see it. So an employee just said, how are you going to regain our trust, the employees' trust? And also the employees, maybe they shared Celsius with their friends and family, and they can't get access to their funds. Basically saying this sounds exactly like how Celsius started. All this talk of transparency, kind of like what I was saying before. So this employee really asked a good question, which I think most employees are also feeling on the line. So Oren said that what got him excited about Celsius was tackling these problems like transparency, doing things different than every other crypto company. And he says that they messed up in the beginning and they are going to do better next time. But still, it's going to be hard to keep these employees motivated and excited and also keep their customers. So we will see. So Oren is saying that what they talked about in the white paper, a lot of those promises were just impossible or very hard to deliver up until now because there's new technology talking about MPC, where Celsius can custody your crypto, but it's still your crypto. So MPC, this technology, will allow Celsius to deliver on a lot of their promises that they promised before, but they couldn't actually deliver up until now. So Oren says two things. One, now they have more of an incentive to actually deliver what they promised in the white paper because they're in Chapter 11. And two, the technology is going to make it easier. So Alex says that they want to provide MPC, essentially have multiple signers in order for you to move your coins. So he's saying that they want to be trusted to be a signer for your crypto. They just have such a hard battle ahead for people to trust them. And Alex says, how many of you guys know how to set up an MPC? Again, the same type of rhetoric, like how many of you guys know how to do DeFi? How many of you guys can read a smart contract? Oh, you can't because you're dumb. Guess what? We have a team of hundreds of people that do this for you. Trust us with your money. You're going to mess up if you do it on your own. It's the same kind of condescending question that, again, he asked about DeFi that he told us on AMAs. You're too dumb to do DeFi, or he didn't say you're too dumb. Basically, like, why would you try to do it yourself when we have a whole team that you can trust us to do it for you? And guess what, guys? There are other companies that allow you to do MPC, to basically set up a wallet where you need multiple signatures to access your coins. Celsius just wants to compete with ones that already exist now. So Alex says that's why they acquired GK8. They do MPC. And Alex says that he wants that the moment you open up a Celsius account, you have an MPC wallet or an account where you are a signer, GK8 is a signer, Celsius or another third party is a signer. So he wants this to become, the way going forward, which I think MPC should be more common. We shouldn't be trusting one party, one source, one centralized player like Celsius with our crypto. We saw where that leads us. And most people are not responsible enough to self-custody their crypto. So I do see a place for MPC. The challenge is trusting Celsius again. But Oren said that even if they get 5%, 10% of their existing customers to continue with them, that is still a massive startup with a lot of customers and a lot of money. And Alex says again, they do not plan on opening up these services for free. He says if you want multi-sig, it may be $50 a year to have that service. So Alex said they are trying to get this plan completely filed with the UCC and the court and the judge within that 120-day exclusivity period. He says if they need more time, they will ask for an extension. But everything that was leaked, everything that I'm reporting on now, was eventually going to come to our attention. Essentially, this is nothing like proprietary information or anything that could seriously damage the bankruptcy going forward. Not at all. This is all information that was already apparently in the works with the UCC to seeing if they would agree, which would then move, I believe, to the court and to the judge to see if they would agree on this. And eventually, if this was all approved, it would eventually get released to us publicly so we could vote on it. But all the stuff I talked about earlier about not necessarily releasing our earn crypto directly, but using it in some proprietary way, that is still part of this equation that is obviously opaque, and we do not really understand what they mean by it. If I had to guess, it'll have to do with something regarding Celsius X. Celsius X was their DeFi arm that they really started last year, and if I had to guess what they're going to do, the plan to make us whole is going to be something regarding that DeFi arm. But one thing very interesting is we have not heard them talk about mining at all. So all this talk about reorganization and making us whole using the mining company and giving us equity in that, they didn't mention that at all in this video, which is kind of interesting. So actually, Oren is talking about this right now. He says if they just sell everything and give us back our crypto, that's not going to be enough to make us whole. So he says we have to be successful with this new company to make everybody whole. But the real question is, okay, what are you going to do with our crypto, most of it that was in the earn program or the collateral? What are you going to do with that? Are you going to use that to help build up your new company? Wait, we didn't really agree on that, right? Like we didn't agree to say, hey, here's our crypto, chapter 11, don't give us our crypto back, but use it to start a new company. I mean, this is nothing that, we agreed on. So Oren is kind of going over the recap. First is giving people who had custody assets, giving those back to them. The second is enabling staking, so allowing people in custody, I believe, to stake their assets. So similar to like what iTrust Capital just did with Polkadot, they're allowing people in their retirement accounts to stake their assets, but it's still being held in cold storage with Coinbase custody. So I believe it's going to be something, similar to that. And then start to re-enable things like swaps, on-ramps, and cross-chain bridging. So Oren does say that they are very motivated to get out of Chapter 11 because it is costing them a lot of money, and that is money that they cannot use for their new company. And he says the first phase of releasing custody assets he thinks will be approved in November. And Alex says that he wants CEL Token to be used much heavier in governance. So I'm sure this inspired a lot of people that are doing the whole CEL short squeeze thing. Oh, he mentioned CEL Token and it's going to be used more heavily, or he wants it to be used more heavily in the new company. This is very, very bullish for CEL Token. And it may be. This may be very, very bullish for CEL Token. A lot of this is still unknown entirely about how this is going to play out. And even if their plan even gets approved, right? There's a lot of steps. The judge has to see it. If the judge doesn't understand it, it's probably not going to get approved. So Alex does say something very interesting right here. He says, obviously he wants to reopen, but also not force people who don't want to participate in the new company, who don't have the same mission as Celsius, still talking about the mission, to leave, to basically get their coins back. So in my estimation, there will probably be two options. One, keep your coins in Celsius and take part of the rebranded company. Or two, most likely take a haircut and take your coins off immediately. My guess is they are going to propose those two options, which I think is appropriate. A lot of people just want to get their crypto off even with a haircut. They don't want anything to do with Celsius anymore for the rest of their life ever, and I completely understand. But some people may still want to be a part of Celsius and may want to have a chance of being made whole again by trusting Celsius's rebranded NewCo, as they call it, new company, and they want to keep their funds in, and there should be that option. All right, guys, that's it. That's it for the recap. Go ahead and watch the original if you want to listen to Alex and Oren talk. And also, if you want to read the transcript as well, that's a great thing. I'll include both of those links below. So I feel like I shared most of my opinions throughout this video, so I'm not going to really make a recap. All I have to say is that they have a very, very hard job ahead of them to regain trust. And we will see what happens. And I will obviously be covering this every single step of the way with you guys. So till next time, talk with you soon, and bye for now.